Sandy says read and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to do a review and discussion of Zell by Donna Jo Napoli. And this is a retelling of the Rapunzel fairy tale. Get the review, let me get the glare off of it for you before we start our review. I'll spit this out, you guys, but hopefully I won't be tongue-tied through the whole thing. Obviously, this is part of our Fractured Fairy Tales reading challenge. Yes, I am continuing the Fractured Fairy Tales fun into this new year of 2026. I've enjoyed doing the Fractured Fairy Tales readings and discussions, so we're just going to keep doing that as long as it keeps bringing me joy. In honor of the Fractured Fairy Tales, I'm wearing some of my Fractured Fairy Tales merch. Yay, you can pick up this t-shirt for yourself at my merch channel, which I will put in the drop-down box below. You can even get one of the stickers. Yeah. If a t-shirt is not your jam, stickers might be. Okay, for this particular review, we're going to divide this video into 3 parts. Let's see what my notes say. First part is going to be a review, a reading of the source material. Second part, we're going to do the review, as we do them here on the channel. And the third part, we're going to do sort of a little bit of compare and contrast with thoughts. Going to compare and contrast Donna's imagining of Rapunzel with the source material. Shall we dive in? Let's dive in. I have here for you guys the Grimm's Complete Fairy Tales. Look at this gorgeous book. Isn't that very nice? Yes. Okay. I'm not going to read the entire, like 3 or 4 pages of Rapunzel from this book, even though those 3 or 4 pages probably would not constitute trouncing on the copyright. I do want to be a little bit more respectful of the copyright, but let's look a little bit at Rapunzel. I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, but as the brothers Grimm gave us Rapunzel, it begins with, "There were once a man and a woman who had long in vain wished for a child. At length, the woman hoped that God was about to grant her desire." Okay, so we have the setup you guys are familiar with. Just a guy and a gal. They want to have a baby, and she becomes pregnant, and they can see over their garden wall the garden of a next-door neighbor, and there's some wonderful lettuces in that garden. And one of the lettuces is called Rampion, or Rapunzel. And the wife is like, I would really like to have some of that lettuce. So the guy does sneak into the garden and get her some. And on another night when he does that, he gets caught. So let's go to the part where he's getting caught. "How can you dare," said she with an angry look. And this is our witch, of course. "To descend into my garden and steal my rampion like a thief? You shall suffer for it." "Ah," answered he, "let mercy take the place of justice. I only made up my mind to do it out of necessity. My wife saw your rampion from the window, and felt such a longing for it that she would have died if she had not got some to eat." Then the enchantress allowed her anger to be softened, and said to him, "If the case be as you say, I will allow you to take away with you as much rampion as you will. Only I make one condition. You must give me the child which your wife will bring into the world. It shall be well treated, and I will care for it like a mother." So the man is terrified, and he agrees to this. So the child is born. They name her Rapunzel, and the enchantress takes her away, and Rapunzel grew into the most beautiful child beneath the sun. When she was 12 years old, the enchantress shut her into a tower, which lay in a forest, and had neither stairs nor door, but quite at the top was a little window. When the enchantress wanted to go in, she placed herself beneath it and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair to me." And Rapunzel had magnificent long hair, fine as spun gold, and when she heard the voice of the enchantress, she unfastened her braided tresses, wound them round one of the hooks of the window above, and then the hair fell 20 ells down, and the enchantress climbed up by it. After a year or 2, it came to pass that the king's son rode through the forest and went by the tower. Then he heard a song, which was so charming that he stood and listened. This was Rapunzel, who in her solitude passed her time in letting her sweet voice resound. The king's son wanted to climb up to her and looked for the door of the tower, but none was to be found. Okay, so he goes home, he comes back another day, and he discovers the enchantress is there, and she says, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. And so the king's son sees how this happens, and he sees the enchantress climb up, and he's like, ah, that's how you do it. Okay. Da-da-da-da-da. And he thinks to himself, if that is the ladder by which one mounts, I will at once try my fortune. The next day, when it began to grow dark, he went to the tower and cried, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. Immediately the hair fell down, and the king's son climbed up. At first Rapunzel was terribly frightened when a man such as her eyes had never yet beheld came to her. But the king's son began to talk to her quite like a friend, and told her that his heart had been so stirred that it had let him have no rest, and he had been forced to see her. Then Rapunzel lost her fear, and when he asked her if she would take him for her husband, and she saw that he was young and handsome, she thought, he will love me more than the old Dame Gothel does. And she said yes, and laid her hand in his. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, keep in mind, she was 12 when she went into the tower, and this is a couple of years later. So how old is she? Ladies and gentlemen, this story is a little problematic. But that's okay. You know, the Grimm's fairy tales, they're a little dark, they're a little foreboding. That's okay because they are foreboding. It's not okay that she's 14 or 15 years old with this prince. But there we have it. Okay, so the story goes on. We all know how the story goes. The enchantress comes back another day, and Rapunzel makes an offhanded comment that gives away that a prince has been there to see her, and the enchantress says, ah, you wicked child, what do I hear you say? I thought I had separated you from all the world, and yet you have deceived me. In her anger, she clutched Rapunzel's beautiful tresses, wrapped them twice round her left hand, seized a pair of scissors with the right, and snip, snap, they were cut off, and the lovely braids lay on the ground. And she was so pitiless that she took poor Rapunzel into a desert where she had to live in grief and misery. On the same day that she cast out Rapunzel, the enchantress fastened the braids of hair which she had kept onto the hook of the window, and in the evening when the king's son came and cried, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair, she let the hair down. The king's son ascended, but he did not find his dearest Rapunzel above, but the enchantress, who gazed at him with wicked and venomous looks. Aha! She cried mockingly, you would fetch your dearest, but the beautiful bird sits no longer singing in the nest. The cat has got it, and will scratch out your eyes as well. Rapunzel is lost to you. You will never see her more. So he's beside himself with pain, and he's in despair. He jumps out of the tower. He escapes with his life, but the thorns down below, they like pierce his eyes, so he's blind, and he has to wander around blind in the wilderness looking for the woman he loves. Blah, blah, blah. Of course, Rapunzel has given birth to twins, because, that happened. Okay, then he does hear her voice in the wilderness, and he comes to her, and she's like, ah, it is you. He's like, ah, it is you. And she cries, and the tears from her eyes fall onto his, and he's able to see again. Let's see. Rapunzel knew him and embraced him and wept. 2 of her tears wetted his eyes, and they grew clear again, and he could see with them as before. He led her to his kingdom, where he was joyfully received, and they lived for a long time afterwards, happy and contented. Okay, so that is our source material. That is the text I want you guys to keep in mind as we go through the story from Donna. Let's dive into part 2, which is our review of Donna's book. We'll start with the specs, as we do in these videos. The specs are, this particular version is 227 pages. The copyright is 1996. So it's been a hot minute. So I'm going to be giving some spoilers. As we go through this and talk about all of the characters and the developments, I will be giving a bunch of spoilers. Also, it's Rapunzel. So So we know how it goes. I'll be giving spoilers. Okay, let's see. This is published by Puffin Books. It's written in third person most of the time. We do have a few chapters that are in first person point of view, and that is the mother's point of view, the witch's point of view. It's also written in present tense. You guys, that was insane. Absolute insanity. When I started reading it, it was driving me nuts, but I got through and it worked out okay. All right. Once in a while, we slip into first person. Oh, yeah. Okay. I told you that. And let me give you an example of that on page 142. Now, this is the witch's point of view, the mother's point of view. She says, I had raised Zell wrong. I had raised a creative, curious child. I had let the child develop her own inclination. I had clapped with pleasure at every new discovery, new talent. I had raised a child who could love easily and whom anyone could love back. Oh, what a terrible twist. I had raised a child in the best way I knew how, and it was that mistake that kept her from me now. I hold that child in a tower, the only one I love, the one I love more than life itself. For 2 years I have held that one in a stone room, and I live alone. I live the life I would have lived if I had never had Zell in the first place. Only it is far worse, for I know what I have lost. Okay, now I picked out that page to read for you guys for a reason. We're going to revisit it again when we start looking at these characters, okay? But that was from the witch's point of view. That's where we slipped into first person point of view. And we're in present tense through this whole thing. This story is told in present tense, which just was weird to me. But it's okay. Let me read the back cover for you guys. And keep in mind, on the back cover, we're going to talk about the prince who comes to Zell, the prince that she meets. But in the book, in the narrative, he's called a count. His parents are not necessarily the king and the queen. They're just high-ranking officials in this dukedom, okay? And he is a count. Just keep that in mind. Okay. High in the mountains, Zell lives with her mother, who insists they have all they need, for they have each other. Zell's life is peaceful and protected until a chance encounter changes everything. When she meets a beautiful young prince at the market one day, she is profoundly moved by new emotions. But Zell's mother sees the future unfolding, and she will do the unspeakable to prevent Zell from leaving her. All right, now let me give you the Sandy synopsis, as we do in these reviews. My synopsis was, almost 13-year-old Rapunzel lives in a clearing in a forest with her mother, never questioning how they can survive on this tiny plot of land with only 2 visits per year to a distant village. The mother, who's obviously a witch, guards Zell closely and seems to truly love the child. Right before her 13th birthday, Mother lets Zell help the smithy in the village while she shops for the child's gifts. A count stops in, and it's love at first sight, but angst-filled love. To protect her child from the count, Mother tricks Zell into a tower, and we see about 5 years of Zell's spiral into insanity, while the count searches, gives up, accidentally finds the tower, climbs up to have sex, and everything falls apart when all these psychologically damaged people act up. Yeah, seriously, you guys, I saw this as kind of a psychologically damaged, fractured fairy tale. I mean, we really got to dive into the psyche of these characters in this version of Rapunzel. I'm here for it. Okay, the character list. Let's talk about a couple of these characters. Meta. Meta is the horse. The Count's horse is named Meta, and Meta has a pretty big part to play in this thing. Meta is the reason that our characters meet. When Mother takes Zell to the village, like a day or two before her birthday, she leaves Zell at the smithy. She leaves Zell there for just, a couple hours while she goes and shops for Zell's birthday gifts. And while she's off shopping, the smithy is fixing some stuff with Meta. He's taking care of this horse, and Zell is like, well, I want to help too. And then along comes this count, and his name is Conrad. He's the next character on our list. Conrad is the Count, and he's a little bit pompous, a little bit stuffy, a little bit arrogant. You know, he's a rich kid, right? And he's been spoiled all his life. He can be however he wants to be. But he shows up and he's like, "Are you done with my horse yet?" And Zell is able to soothe and calm and care for the horse while Conrad is watching this. Like, wow, she's really got a way with animals, and she's kind of cute, and isn't she special? This little peasant isn't, cowering in fear of me. She's speaking to me like an equal, and she's taking care of my horse like she's done it all her life, and she's really interesting. Wow, I like her a lot. And she offers him some bread, and she doesn't realize he's a count. He's just some youth who's kind of pompous, but she offers him some bread, and he's like, "This is really interesting bread. It's peasant bread that she's offered me, but I really like it. I really like her. I need to do something for her." And so he asks her, "What gift can I bring you?" And she's like, "Don't bring me a gift. You don't owe me anything." And he's like, "No, I must do something for you." And she's like, "You know what? If you want to bring me a gift, don't bring me a gift. Bring a gift that I can give to my goose friend that I have back at my farm, at my house. Bring me a goose egg that I can give to my goose friend." And he's like, "Well, that's weird, but I will do this for you." And so off he goes. Okay. The next character in our character list is the Smithy himself. He plays an important role in our story because he's the one who's taking care of the horse. He's the one who lets Zell help him. He's the one who watches this interaction between the youth, whom he knows is a count, and Zell, whom he knows is quite protected by the mother. He knows that he shouldn't be letting Zell get close to anyone. He knows this. And then later in the story, he's also the one who basically sells information to the Count. Yeah. So that is our Smithy character. Then we have the Goose. The Goose is a character in this story, and an important one. And we're going to talk more about the Goose when we talk about part 3 of this review. Then we have Zell. Zell is obviously the main character of the story. Zell, she is Rapunzel. She is the one that the mother, the witch, got as a bargain in when the witch gave up some of her lettuce, some of her Rapunzel to a pair, to a couple in exchange for a child. Zell is the child she got. Okay, so here is Zell. And when we first meet Zell, she's about 12 years old. She's about to turn 13, but she is very childlike in the way she behaves. She's very childlike in her mannerisms. She's dancing around the kitchen when we first meet her. She's just really young and childlike in her behaviors. All right, keep that in mind, please. Then we have Mother. I don't know that we ever got her real name. I mean, in the Grimm's fairy tale, she is Gothel, but in Donna's story, I don't know that I ever saw her name named. At least I didn't write it down if we did. So there's Mother, and she's a witch, obviously. Then we have devil spirits. Now, these things are not necessarily named in the story, but they are there. They are in the background. They are, they're bad actors. They are a catalyst for a lot of action that takes place in this story, in this particular telling of Rapunzel. These devil spirits, I wrote down, we don't see these, but they are what Mother bargains with. Okay, these devil spirits are what they are why she receives the gift of manipulating plants. And they are why she is able to trick the man into giving her the baby Rapunzel. They are what could give Zell the gift of communicating with animals. Zell would love to be able to communicate with the animals around the forest the way Mother is able to communicate with plants and communicate with the elements. I mean, Zell can see that, and she just assumes that is a power that some people have, and Zell would like to have the power to communicate with the animals, especially with the goose. Okay, keep that goose in mind. Let's see. The devil spirits also, they've made sort of an arrangement or a bargain with the witch, with Mother, that she will raise up Zell so that at some point Zell can make a decision of her own to embrace these devil spirits and embrace this idea of receiving the gift to communicate with the animals. Yeah, there is a spiritual warfare element to this story that I didn't anticipate. I didn't expect, but it sort of revealed itself as we got further into the text. I'm like, wow, there's something deep going on in Donna's version of Zell. It was intriguing to see. Okay, so those are our characters. And in giving you my review of the story, did I like it? Did I not like it? I did like parts of it. It was kind of a, I don't know, I guess I did like parts of it, and there were parts of it I did not like. There were parts of it I was uncomfortable with. Let me go into that. I was uncomfortable with the idea that Rapunzel is just turning 13 when this like 17-year-old count, who is more influential and more high society than her, sees her and falls for her and then pursues her in an obsessive fashion. Okay, I was not comfortable with that aspect of our story. I mean, we're supposed to root for Rapunzel and her prince getting together, right? We're supposed to root for that. But in this story, Rapunzel is 13 when she goes into the tower. And this count, the prince, he is basically 17. He's turning 18. Then he turns 19. Then he turns 20. I mean, we have this character who is older than her, more worldly than her. And he's obsessed with finding her and marrying her after meeting her for about 20 to 30 minutes in the smithy and deciding, I need to find her and marry her. I was uncomfortable with that. Okay, that was just a little bit creepy. Then another thing that I was just a little bit uncomfortable with in this story was the mother, the witch. I wrote down here, she's obviously a witch, which Rapunzel has never picked up on for the first 13 years of her life. This woman is possessive and manipulative and emotionally abusive until she becomes physically abusive. She locks her child in a tower. Okay, age 13, and she locks her child in a tower. It was just a little creepy, okay? All right, but that's the story. Okay, that is the story of Rapunzel. And remember, we on page 142, we read from the mother's point of view. We saw first person point of view with the mother talking about how she had raised Zell wrong. Where the narrator, Donna, she's showing us through the mother's eyes that the mother is supposed to be a sympathetic creature at that point. The mother has had Rapunzel locked up for 2 years at this point when we get to page 142, and she is thinking to herself, I really screwed up. I screwed up because I raised my daughter to be a loving and caring child. I doted upon her. I loved her too much. I encouraged her too much. Okay, she's saying these things and saying, I screwed up because I made her a good child. I screwed up because I loved her too much. Okay, listen to this again. I had raised Zell wrong. I had raised a creative, curious child. Okay, those two sentences right next to each other. What a mess. Okay, the mother character, she's a mess. I had let the child develop her own inclinations. Okay, but that is wrong. So this mother the mother has been manipulating the child, and now she's trying to manipulate us as the reader. I had clapped with pleasure at every new discovery and new talent. I had raised a child who could love easily and whom anyone could love back. Oh, what a terrible twist. I had raised a child in the best way I knew how, and it was that mistake that kept her from me now. Okay, she's got her in a tower, and she does feel bad that, she's put her in a tower in a stone room. I feel bad about that, but she has to be there for her own good. Huh. Okay, so the mother she's a manipulative character, and we're supposed to be, the narrator is trying to get us to feel pity for this creature at that point. It's just a little bit weird. I felt weird about that. Creepy. Then, let's see. Oh, okay. We do get to see the psychological degradation of Zell. Okay, we get to see her ascend the tower and descend into madness. She's up in that tower for like 5 years, okay? And we see that 5-year period just destroying her mentally, psychologically. She's going nuts up there in that tower. As you would. I mean, as you would expect a character to do. Donna does a great job of sending Zell into just a psychological drama up there, okay? Very nicely done. I enjoyed that. But I was so disappointed because while Zell is up there like going insane, she has 3 friends. There's a squirrel that she calls Rascal Rascal. There's a little stone that she has like dug out of the wall, and she uses this stone to like mark the days. Like she lifts up her mattress and marks the days that she's up there, or the months. She marks time with this stone, and she considers that stone one of her friends. And then there is a bird. She calls him Pigeon Pigeon. There's a pigeon that flies to the window, and that's one of her friends. And in one of the episodes, when she's just losing her mind and going a little bit nuts, she like flings her braid, like the end of her braid, at Pigeon Pigeon and smacks him in such a way that it sends Pigeon Pigeon hurtling to the ground. She kills her friend. She kills Pigeon Pigeon. At least she feels that she has killed Pigeon Pigeon. And she immediately regrets it. She feels bad that she has killed her friend because now she's less a friend. She's got one less friend. And I hated that. I was so upset. You guys, I wrote down here in my notes, I almost stopped reading. I mean, seriously, when she whisked the braid and killed Pigeon Pigeon, I almost stopped reading at that point. I mean, we're pretty far into the book. I'm like, well, I might as well keep going since I'm this far in. But I was upset that she was killing a bird. I was upset with that. I didn't like that. Okay. Moving on. I did like getting to see the psychological drama. So let's get into part 3, where we discuss that a little bit, because that psychological drama is sort of part of the compare and contrast that I want to discuss in part 3. Comparing and contrasting Zell with Rapunzel. Comparing and contrasting our retelling of Zell with the source material. Let's talk about this goose character. Okay, I mentioned when we went through our character list that goose was really important. You guys, that little goose character, the goose cannot lay its own eggs. Kind of like the mother, the witch character, could not have her own child. Okay, so there's a parallel happening there. So the goose character will take stones and place these little round stones in her nest and sit on them every spring. Once a year, she'll sit on these stones and just sit there, and they never hatch. And Zell feels sorry for Goose. She feels sorry for Goose because she will sit on these stones and they will never hatch. So when Zell is in that stable with the smithy and with this youth, and the youth says, "What gift can I give you? What can I give you for helping me?" She's like, "I don't want a gift, but you could give a gift to my goose friend. Bring me a goose egg that's viable, that's fertile, that's ready to hatch. Bring that to me so I can give it to my goose friend." That's what she wants. She wants an egg to give to the goose. She wants the goose to be able to have a child. Zella's a good kid, right? And she's almost 13. She just wants to give something to her friend Goose. But this goose doesn't know what to do with it and rejects it. You guys, the portion of the book where this happens is called rejection. That is the title of this section of the book, rejection. Okay, so it's the day after they've been at the village. They have come back. Mother is giving gifts to Zell, like a little bit at a time. Here's a couple, here's a couple. And Zell has already put that egg in the nest with the stones, okay, so that Goose can sit on it. It's morning. It's morning, and Mother is thinking that everything is lovely. We're in first person point of view from Mother's point of view. She is looking around with her magic power. She's sitting in the kitchen. She's with her magic power. She's looking around their little homestead, and she freaks out. Okay. I relax now into my own kind of enjoyment. I close my eyes and see a sparrowhawk swoop for the sheer fun of flight right over our rooftop. Then I allow my vision to wander across our elm, taking pleasure in the curve of each leaf, the hue of each petal. No! I drop my spoon in my bowl and jump to my feet. What, Mother? What is it? I race from the room, from the cottage, Zell behind me. I run straight toward the goose nest built. Oh, I run straight toward the goose nest, but halt before I reach it. You stupid bird! The words burst from my mouth in small explosions of air. Zell picks up the egg the goose has rolled from the nest. She holds it in front of her as though it's an offering of sorts. She looks at the goose, who fixes the two of us with one eye. Please, goose, Zell whispers. Please, this can be your child. She licks her lips in concentration. Do it, Zell. Need almost snaps my voice. The bird must take back the egg. For Zell's sake. Okay, the mother, this witch mother, is recognizing that this egg is like Zell. This egg is the orphan child. This egg is not the goose's child, but we want it to be, right? Just like Zell is not mother's child, but mother has accepted Zell, and mother wants Zell to recognize that she has accepted Zell. Mother wants the goose to accept this egg so that the parallel can be drawn and be drawn correctly and lovingly and perfectly, and it doesn't work out. The goose does not accept this egg. The goose rejects this egg, and it cracks, and the ants get into it, and it rots. And that is a parallel for what's happening in this story of Zell. You guys, it's brilliant. Donna did a fantastic job with this. On page 52, 53, 54, we're going right here in like the first third of this book. We're seeing what's going to happen eventually with Zell and Mother and the Count coming in, Zell and Mother and the rejection of this egg. You guys, the parallel was wonderful. The symbolism was great. I thought that was brilliant. So well done. Okay. Moving on. What other? Oh, okay. So compare and contrast that to the source material. There was no goose in the source material. There was no egg. There was no foreshadowing of rejection. That didn't happen in the source material, but it happened in Donna's retelling of, in her reimagining of, in the fractured fairy tale. And it was just brilliant. I liked that. Next. Okay, seeing Zell's mental breakdown from her imprisonment, right? Brilliant. You guys, obviously that mental breakdown was not explored in the source material. The source material was very quick. It's a fairy tale. It's quick and over, right? In this story, we have, how many pages did we say this thing was? Hold, please. We have 227 pages to go through a fairy tale and like flesh it out. And we have time to see Rapunzel in the tower, wondering what's going on, getting excuses from her mother for why she needs to be in the tower, for some imagined danger that she needs to hide from. Okay, so there's this threat of a danger that might find her. So she's afraid of that, and she's afraid of being found in this tower by some imagined danger. She's afraid of falling out of the tower when she's leaning out the window. She doesn't understand why her hair is growing so fast and it hurts sometimes. Okay, she has things physically happening to her and fear and dread. Plus, she's isolated, alone in a tower. It's messing with her, and we get to explore that isolation. We get to explore how it's messing with her. We get to see it happening. I mean, she goes through this phase where like she's naked in the tower all the time because she just can't stand to have her clothing on her body. So she takes off this dress that mother has made for her and she leaves it lie on the floor all the time. But there's 1 hour a day when mother is with her. So she puts on the dress for 1 hour a day. And we explore the reasoning behind that. It's so well done. This descent into madness. It's brilliant. You guys, it's brilliant. Okay. Although I have to say, I was so angry when she killed Pigeon Pigeon. Now, of course, she's going mad. She's insane. She's getting upset about stuff, and she like whips her braid at it and kills this pigeon. I was mad. But there is something very nice that happens. Let's see, do we see it on page 153? Da, da, da. I was so upset about the pigeon, you guys. Do we have the pigeon? Oh, okay. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. There is a nice ending about the pigeon, so hold that thought. Okay, but here we are, our descent into madness. On page 153, it took weeks for Zell to lure ants to the top of her tower. She held her arm out as far as she could and squeezed a bunch of black grapes until the juices landed on what she hoped was the very bottom of the tower. The next day, she squeezed a new fruit, but now she held her arm not quite so far out, so that the juices fell a little higher up the tower side. Each day, she made the juices fall higher. She cursed the day when Mother brought a banana, strange tropical fruit, dry to the touch, but then she pureed the banana with spit between her fingers until it dripped easily. The plan worked because the tower's sides sloped lightly outward. Once Zell had a colony of lice. Her impeccable searching led to their discovery in the paper covering her boiled eggs. Mother must have set the freshly gathered eggs near the paper before she cooked them, for these lice were the kind that lived on hens. Zell kept the lice rolled in plum skin. She fed them daily, a drop of blood from her tongue, which she would bite. She invited them onto her head. If they would only have taken up residence in her hair, she could have persuaded Mother to shave her head, but they preferred her tongue blood. She tried denying them blood altogether. They waited patiently. One day she dropped them into her crimson ink. Zell, who had once considered all life to be admired, wiped out the lice colony. Okay, this is her descent into madness. She's making friends with a colony of lice, okay? And then she kills them all. All right, she's losing her mind. But then, yeah, Pigeon Pigeon. And now Pigeon Pigeon is silent. Blah, blah. Oh, it's just, it's sad. Yeah, when she destroys Pigeon, I was very, very unhappy with that. But the pigeon does survive what she did. It does have a broken wing. Let's see if I can give you guys the hope from the pigeon. Okay, yes, I've got that mark for you. Okay, so another compare and contrast with our story is the witch does assist the count. When he comes to the tower, when the witch confronts him in the tower, we do have that confrontation like we do in the source material. When he comes to the tower, when the witch confronts him, she sees in his eyes that he loves her child. And that is on page 207. Let's go to page 207 together. Conrad thrusts his neck forward, though he remains in a crouch. His eyes go to Zell's dress on the floor. He scans the mattress, the walls. Finally, he looks at me once more. We're in Mother's point of view. And now I see his face well, his eyes, his mouth. He holds more misery than I realized a man could feel. And instantly I know what I never wanted to know, what I hate knowing. He is my soulmate. He loves my Zell. No, what have I done? The world is wrong. Conrad's head falls back as the scream empties his lungs. When there is no more left, he draws the dagger. I will find her. I cannot bear the pain of living without Rapunzel. Nor can I whisper, each word costing more energy than I can afford. But such is our fate. All is inevitable. Conrad's eyes flame. He begins his lunge. My fingers open as my hands rise in a move of self-protection. The braids fly. In that split second, from nowhere comes the image of Pigeon Pigeon being smacked from the window. From nowhere comes her squawk, and I know what will happen. I would grab the braids back, but they are already gone. The braids whip Conrad from the window, gone like the bird, gone like Rapunzel. No, I close my eyes and squeeze my hands together and use the final reserve of my strength. Conrad is caught and pierced by the brambles that have sprung up around the base of the tower. He lives. I die. So this woman, the witch woman, she has used her magic to bring up these brambles to catch him. It's the best she can do. because she's dying. Her power is leaving her, and she dies. But she's able to protect him enough to catch him and keep him from splattering, right, when he falls. But the brambles do pierce his eyes, so he's blinded. So we do have the confrontation with the prince. We do have the confrontation with Conrad the Count. We do have that like we do in the source material. But unlike the source material, the witch tries to save him. The witch tries to protect him because she recognizes, she sees, he loves Zell as much as I do. He wants to find and help her kind of the way I do. That's nice. I'm going to help him. So she helps him. And he does go looking for her, blind as he is. People in his kingdom, in his dukedom, do attempt to help him. And at some point, they are like, we give up. This is done. It's over. You're on your own. And he's out searching for her on his own. And a pigeon rides on his shoulder. The bird sat warbling by the man when he first came to consciousness in the brambles. His hands told him it had a broken wing. It has stayed with the man ever since. Oh, yeah, I got a little emotional again. I was reading this on a plane, you guys, and I got a little emotional then too. So kind of gets you. So yeah, Pigeon was down at the base of the tower, broken wing, so she couldn't fly away, but there she was. And so when Conrad fell, Pigeon was like, I can help you find her. Let's go do this together. Yeah. I love that. So page 221, we have Pigeon and Conrad working to find Rapunzel. Meta, the horse, came over, got her master up, and so Meta brought the man home. His mother washed the caked blood from his cheeks and eyes, blah 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 blah. So they go off looking for Rapunzel together and find her and the twin children that she gave birth to, just like the source material, and they live happily ever after. Hooray. So like the source material, there is a happy ending to this kind of problematic story. Yeah, problematic. Now, they are older, okay? I mean, Rapunzel is not a 13-year-old she's not a 13-year-old when he lays with her in the tower. She's not a 13-year-old when she gives birth to these twins, okay? I think she's 18 or 19 by the time, or maybe even 20. She's in the tower for a while, you guys. It's like 5, so she's 20. I can't do math. I certainly can't do it in a hurry like that. Okay, she's 20 years old when they do get together. Let's put it that way. And then, there's a couple years that pass while he's out looking for her, blind, with Pigeon on his shoulder. Yeah. So, true to the source material, there is a happily ever after in our story. Hooray, you guys, thumbs up for a happily ever after. Thumbs up for our fractured fairy tale reading challenge. Guys, if you had read Zell by Donna Jo Napoli, let me know what you thought of this telling of Rapunzel. If you have not read it, I encourage you to do so, because despite some problematic things, it's a really interesting retelling. It is, you guys, just for the psychological drama, it's a good thing to read. I enjoyed it a lot. Thumbs up for Fractured Fairy Tales, and thank you so much for tuning in.